today. Uh, we are live for another daily dose of sales and marketing. And today I'm going to be talking to you about your database. I'm going to be talking to you about the most precious asset that's going to get you through the recession that everyone's claiming that we're going through, the recession, right? That we're going through, so that you actually come out on top. I'm going to go over strategies that literally, like, if you just pay very, very close attention to what I'm going to share with you, and you take these strategies and tactics and immediately apply them, literally you're talking a transaction or two right away. If you're running a team, you're talking about, if you can get your team to focus on what I'm about to share with you, you're talking about a transaction or two a month per agent on your team. If you can get them to implement what I'm going to share with you, that's the if part, right? That's why you're going to always hear me, talking about this idea of execution, because the reality is that knowledge without execution is really not knowing. It's like not knowing at all, right? So I just want you to get, first of all, I want to start off because we're here on mindset, or we're here on Monday. I want to talk about your mindset and what your mindset looks like on your database. And so what you can expect over the next 5 to 7 minutes, I'm going to talk mindset, what your mindset needs to be towards working your database. And then I'm going to give you 2 to 3 practical strategies and tactics that you can use like right now to go get business from your database. Okay? Sound good? So first of all, I want to start off by asking you a question. And I want you to drop this in the comments if you're listening or watching. How much money would you sell your database to me for? Meaning all your contacts, your leads, right? Any leads, any data that you have to run your real estate business or your mortgage business. If I came to you and said, hey, look, I want to buy your book. I want to buy your book of business. I want to buy your database. What would you sell that to me for? Well, you may throw a number out. Well, here's what I'm going to do. Okay. I'm going to come back to you and say, okay, you think your database is worth X. And I'm going to share with you all the reasons why it's not. What, Isaiah, what are you talking about? Like, my database is my most precious asset. Yes, it is. But you have to be treating it like you value it. You have to actually take action and manage it like you value it. See, most of us, the biggest disconnect that we have in our business is that we have a high regard for our database, and we say that it's worth a lot of money. But the reality is, if I dig down deep and I look at how you're managing your lead sources, how you're managing your database, how you're organizing your database, it doesn't match the value that you put on it. So the first and foremost, the shift that we have to have in today's market more than ever before, as we make this transition in this changing market, is how we view and look at our database. So for example, a couple key things. If I truly value my database, number one, I'm going to make sure it's organized, right? Number two, I'm going to make sure that we have a pipeline strategy to make sure that business is not falling through the cracks. And number three, I'm going to make sure that we have a marketing strategy to complement our sales strategy within our database, so that way we're building relationships as throughout the client journey within our database. I'm going to do that, right? And so I have the privilege of literally working with some of the top teams in the country. We run a very successful real estate team ourselves, in addition to other businesses that we do with coaching, consulting, and digital marketing. And here's one thing I can share with you. The top 1% are hyper-focused on what's happening with their database. They're either trying to build it, or they're trying to organize it, or they're trying to monetize it. And first and foremost, I just want to ask you, check up from the neck up on a scale of 1 to 10. How good of a job are you doing managing your database? Right? And so that's the mental shift. And I'll share with you, I was horrible at this in the beginning. I was the gunslinger. I was the hunter. Whatever was in front of me, I'm chasing it, running 1,000,000 miles an hour, not taking a moment to think. And boy, did I get some business. But what ended up happening as my database grew, I started paying for leads, and I had clients coming in, past clients or whatever it may be, it became a disaster. And it wasn't until I started experiencing in my follow-up efforts that too many people, that's the key word, too many people that I was either working with trying to earn their business were going to other people because of my lack of organization and follow-up. And also too many people from my sphere and my past clients weren't coming back and thinking of me first. And so that's where it started for me. And once that became painful enough, I said, what am I doing, right? And there's some amazing training. Over the past 5 years, the training on this has become so much better in this topic. But the industry has a long ways to go when it comes to what your first priority is. And so whether you're a new agent or you're an agent doing 100 transactions, your first priority is to make sure that you're either part of a team or you're doing it yourself, where you have a process to manage your leads. So I'm going to go over some basics, and then I'm going to go over a few more advanced things. So the first thing is I want to kind of take us back to what we call our sales acceleration blueprint. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And if you look at this here, the key to the sales acceleration blueprint that I teach is having all 7 of these components coming together, starting with a database in the middle. That's what we're talking about here today. And then everything else builds around it. And that's why it's so important for you to make sure that you are hyper-focused on managing your database. Okay. So a couple key things. First and foremost, you got to spend time in your CRM or hire somebody to help you spend time in your CRM. And at the end of the day, it's not any more or less complicated than this. Regardless of the lead source, hear me out. Regardless of the lead source, you should have a 30, 60, 90 list that you're following up with. That's your A list. You should have a 90 to 6 months time frame. That's your B list. And you have your C list, which is they're a long ways out, or you have no idea what's going on with them. So once you have that structure set up, now you can start doing some damage with your sales and marketing plan. You see, if you don't have that structure set up, it becomes incredibly hard to do specific strategies and tactical things that you can do in today's world, AKA step into the digital marketing world and stop using old school strategies like just blind calling, right? And so once you have that set up, now you should have some insight and you can methodically work through your database. The next step is consistency. And there's all sorts of cadences and frequencies here, but the recommendation here when you're working your database and when your team is working your database is that you have a system and a structure set up where you're following up with your 30, 60, 90-day leads at least once a week. And your team's doing the same thing. And there's accountability. So there's accountability to yourself and your team that this is happening. I want you to drop in the comments accountability, because what is not tracked will never be improved. And that starts with having a process to tracking how many people are in your database. And here's something that I think is a crude reality, but it's the truth. If I was to coach you one-on-one, my first session that I would do with you is I would look at your database. And without you telling me what your transaction goal is or what's going on, I could virtually predict what your outcome is going to be based on how many people you have legitimately in your 30, 60, 90-day pipeline. I already will know your outcome for the next 3 to 6 months, probably the whole year, based on what's happening in your 30, 60, 90-day pipeline. Now, as much as I'd like to say, oh, Isaiah has superpowers, it's nothing to do with that. It's called predictability. It's called understanding the data, understanding the marketplace, right? So like what happens is if you don't have business in your 30, 60, 90-day pipeline, the way that real estate works, your closing pattern is going to be in congruency with that. So you can wish, you can pray, you can hope as much as you want that you're going to go out and have an awesome third quarter, or you're going to have an awesome fourth quarter. And while you can control that, what makes it extremely predictable is how well you're working your 30, 60, 90-day pipeline. And that goes to the next thing is focusing on your B list at least every other week. Okay. And then your C list, you want to either put other systems in place like an inside sales agent, or have some really strong automation, some AI, okay, that's layered in there, which we're going to talk about in future sessions, to help you bring people from the top of the funnel list to your B and A lists. And that's, if you structure your database where you have a pond, right? Your pond is kind of your C list. It's a big giant pond. You go fishing out of that pond and you bring them down your B and A list. Now you can start doing amazing things. Now I can teach you how to leverage digital marketing to do remarketing ads. I can teach you how to build your database by purchasing geographical leads, pulling them into your CRM, and then launching ads to gain a first awareness and develop a relationship, and then move towards conversion, setting up an appointment, and then move towards getting them to close. So you can start doing all sorts of strategies, which I'm going to go live and talk to you about tomorrow. But it starts with your database. From here, you can do video marketing campaigns. From here, you can do automated follow-up, text message, and email campaigns. From here, your prospecting is going to be smarter. And I can keep going on and on and on, but it starts with your database. Well, Isaiah, I'm not a tech person. I can't stand Excel spreadsheets. I get it. Either am I, but you got to find somebody to do it for you then. I'm not. If you think I'd be caught dead sitting here messing around with an Excel spreadsheet, it's not my personality. It's not my core strength, but you better believe I'm going to do what I did. When I had this revelation, I did whatever I needed to do to get somebody to do it for me, whether it's a virtual assistant, whether it's a college student, whether it's a friend and family member that's good with Excel, whether it's calling a company or hiring a third-party company to help me manage this. Okay. So here's the summary. Your belief system has to change, and it starts with your database. And that's what's going to carry you through this changing market, is what you're doing and how you're monetizing your database more than anything else. And that starts with your mindset. From there, I gave you a strategy. The strategy is your A, B, and C lists. And then you go in there and you classify them based on what's happening, not by lead source, but based on what's happening with their time frames. And then from there, which we're going to get into more tactical things tomorrow when I go live, is the different things you can do. So your action step for today, if you're watching this, is go get your database organized. And if you're not willing to do it yourself, freaking hire somebody to help you do it. Isaiah Colton with Isaiah Colton & Company. Just remember, you're one idea away from your next breakthrough. And if you are interested in a free trial and you want help with any of this, you can simply go to renfreetrial.com. It'll take you to a landing page to learn more about Ren 360, which is designed to help you with your digital blueprint, generate new leads, and draw business from your database. Hope you have an awesome rest of your day. Feel free to leave comments. I'm here to answer any questions for the next half hour. You guys are absolutely awesome. Have a great Monday. Talk to you tomorrow on our next daily dose of sales and marketing.